Happiness comes from within. Were you taught that when you were young? Yeah, so if you just seek within, find out who you really are, follow your dreams, follow your passion. So, for sort of an internal process that you could find happiness. That might be the worst advice ever given. It's the worst advice. There's no happiness within. It's not in there. Don't look for it. It's not in there. Your brain is just a recipient of inputs. You just change the inputs. Happiness is without. Happiness will come to you by doing the right things externally with your body. Take your body outdoors. Don't look within your skull. Go outside in the sun. Walk around. Happiness is not in your head. It's in your fucking stomach. Don't eat shit and then tell me you're unhappy. Maybe it's because you ate shit all day. Maybe that made you unhappy. I don't know. I just did a little experiment in the last month where I tried to really clean up my eating. My allergies went away. I mean, seriously. I mean, I have pretty much permanent allergies all the time. All I did was say, for a month, I'm just going to really just eat really clean. I mean, as much as you can in the modern world. My allergies went away. And yes, I do have allergies in the winter and all year round, normally. So did I find happiness within? No, it was on my plate. Happiness is on your plate. It's out there. Did I find happiness within, or did you have some good sex? Did you meditate? Did you do some yoga? Did you get some exercise? Did you put your phone down at 9 p.m. instead of playing with it at 2 p.m. and do all the wrong things to sleep? Have you spent 10 minutes Googling what it takes to have good sleep habits? Number one, go to bed about the same time every night and wake up about the same time. Actually, the waking up is more important. Right? Here's when I was 11 and I realized that my anxiety level, somewhat biologically, was through the roof, I said to myself, my number one job is that. Every day, I'm going to work on figuring out how the fuck to stop worrying about everything. And I did. I exercised in every way you can, sports. I learned meditation when I was in high school. I became a hypnotist, in part to use self-hypnosis, which is very effective, in the same way meditation is. And I've spent all of my adult life studying every skill that could give me any angle on how to make my anxiety less, which is related to your entire health, right? The whole thing is wrapped up in your whole health. And so, do not shortchange yourself. If you want to know what your priorities ought to be, and I say ought in terms of best outcome for all people. Usually, best outcome, is usually for one person at other people's expense. But here's the best outcome for all people. Take care of your anxiety first, which means taking care of your health, right? I could have said, take care of your health first, but your health isn't like the concept that's bothering you. It's your anxiety that's bothering you. Make it your full-time job to figure out anything you can do to make that go down, and do it without drugs if you can. The exception is weed. Weed works for some people, and it's just a positive. In my life, it's just a positive. That doesn't mean it would be for you. I think maybe 1 in 5 people could say that for sure, at most. So you have to find your way. Like there's no one thing that I'm going to tell you that's going to work for you. You got to find the system that gets you outside. You got to find the system that lets you eat right. By the way, that's my book teaches you how to do that. How to fail at almost everything and still win big. But do not allow yourself to think it's something happening inside your head. It is not. All right, so that is your lesson on happiness. Make it your full-time job. Now, how do you know when somebody's having cognitive dissonance, and how do you know it isn't you? Now, I've told you before, so I'm going to add something to things I've said before. I've told you before, the first way is look for the trigger. all right? Because somebody needs to do something that's, or be in a situation in which their self-image is challenged, or they've been proven wrong in public. Those are the triggers. Now, suppose you're not sure who had the trigger. Maybe you think, oh, I think you had the trigger. And then the person you're pointing at says, I'm not so sure. I think you're the one with the trigger. How could you further figure it out if the trigger doesn't answer the question? Well, I would say that one of the ways, and not 100%, is how people have prepared for the trigger. How prepared were you to be wrong? Because that'll really tell you something. And let me give you my example. One of the reframes that I do that I think keeps my mind healthier is that I find that being wrong, even in public, is thrilling. How many of you could say, and honestly, that being wrong and other people seeing it would actually give you kind of a charge? Not many, right? So it's a learned ability. I don't think you're born with that. I think that everybody has a natural sense of shame and embarrassment. And I had plenty of it. I mean, I had lots of it. But I do think you can practice it away, there's a skill set about that. Now, in my case, I've also monetized being wrong. Since what I talk about here is cognitive illusions. If there were a really good cognitive illusion and I got one seriously wrong, my business model would make me more money. Because if I do a title of these live streams that says, oh, I got everything wrong, or here's how I have to apologize for this, my traffic goes up 30%. You've seen it. But if I tell you that I'm right about everything and you got it wrong, what happens to my money? Goes down 30%. You know, my live stream traffic is probably down 25% or so from its peak for no other reason than because I'm not telling you I'm wrong. So if you're going to follow the money, I guarantee you that admitting I'm wrong is more profitable for me. Do you accept that? You can see it yourself, right? I mean, you could just check my numbers. They're public. They're listed right there on. You just look, and you see that when I'm eating crow, people love to watch it. So people like to watch other people squirm. But for me, it would be actually a sort of an exciting learning experience. Now, keep in mind that one of my frames of life is that I'm living in a simulation, and that reality is slowly, revealing itself to me. So anytime reality feels like it comes from behind a curtain and then reveals itself to me, and I find out how blind I was to something, I kind of like it. So, while nobody likes to be proven wrong, I do have a business model that supports it. And I can think of lots of examples where I thought, whoa, I was so wrong about that, and said it in public, and I was fine. I also know that I survive it just fine, being wrong. How many times have you seen me be wrong, and here I am. I'm still here. There's no difference. I have trained myself by being wrong enough in public, embarrassing myself enough in public, and finding out that I wake up the next day and breakfast tastes exactly the same. I'm like, well, let me test this theory. A lot of people think I'm wrong, and they hate me right now. Okay, let me taste my coffee. Same. It's the same. You think something's going to be different because you're embarrassed or because somebody has a lower opinion of you, but it's really not. It's really not. Things are just the same. And once you realize that other people's opinions, here's another reframe for you. I'm starting to work on a book on this topic, which is why I'm thinking about it a lot. One of the reframes for you to avoid criticism or the impact of criticism is to remember that somebody else's opinion of you is a chemical reaction happening in the brain and the skull, I like to say, inside the skull of a stranger who's not even in the room. It's a microscopic chemical attraction, or a chemical reaction, and electrical, I guess, happening in the skull of somebody who's nowhere around. Like, I don't know where that is. And even if I were there, the chemical little reaction would be so small, I couldn't even detect it. And that's the thing you're worrying about. Tomorrow, your coffee will taste the same. When you're on your deathbed, here's another reframe. Here's another reframe. Every time something like that bothers you and you know it's small ball, you're saying to yourself, I know that's small. Man, that bothers me. Oh, God. It's small. I get it. But, man, that's bothering me. Just think about your last breath. You're on your deathbed. Are you going to be thinking about that? Is that going to be in the top million of things you're going to think about on your last day on earth? Nope. Nope. So don't worry about it now. Let it go. All right. So those are your reframes for the day. I believe that we've solved or put into motion a solution to education, the high cost of college. I believe that will also get rid of systemic racism, as it is mostly present in the public schooling system and the teachers' unions supporting it. Once we have everybody trained and no longer trained to be racist, we will have the strongest, most powerful country that ever existed. I'll tell you what China doesn't see coming. They don't see talent stacks and systems over goals, something that has swept America and made people who used to be pretty good at doing things into people who are great at doing things. Do you think that this reframing stuff and the systems over goals doesn't work? I'm going to prove it to you right now. In the comments, both locals and YouTube, tell me how many of you have recently quit drinking. Go. I'm not going to say anything. If you're listening to this, I'm not going to say what's happening right now. Look at the comments. Now, YouTube, you're a little bit slower, but let me just say that the local people are incredible. Oh, my God. I've never seen so many people say they quit alcohol. Here comes YouTube, coming online. YouTube. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that the representative sample of other live streams would have this many people who quit alcohol recently? Ask yourself. Do you think any other live streams would have this many people immediately saying, I quit alcohol? Yeah, this reframing stuff is powerful. When I told you that alcohol is poison, and I repeat it all the time, that's the reframe. If you think alcohol is a beverage, you're fucked. Well, let me be clear about that. If your idea of alcohol is that it's a beverage, you're fucked. You're just fucked. It's poison. Now, it is poison that feels really good, and I've greatly enjoyed the times that I've used it. Greatly enjoyed it. Had terrific times. But it's poison. Let's not kid ourselves. So if you want to drink less, just think you're taking poison. It's just you decided you won't take that much of it, so you think you'll survive. But that little bit of a reframe, it'll work on you over time. And over time, you'll find that it's easier to quit if you want to. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You're free people. But this is powerful stuff. And I will talk to you tomorrow.